Now to live pictures of Premier Li Keqiang now arriving. As you can see there, he's arriving as part of his 5-day visit there. He's in Canberra, Australia, meeting and greeting with some of the officials there. This is the first official visit to Australia by a Chinese premier in over a decade, so clearly a very historic visit that we're experiencing right now.
Not his first visit, by the way. He was there before, of course, as a vice premier, and before that as well, but indeed his first visit there as premier.
Now we know that he arrived at the capital, Canberra, on Wednesday to expand on bilateral ties, and he'll also be spending some time in Sydney as well. Looking at some pictures there of him getting a salute there for his welcome.
Shoulder, arms, guard, order, arms.
That was the Australian national anthem we were just listening to there. Let's actually bring back Ina Tangent back into the picture.
My name is Captain Philip of Australia's Federation Guard. So I'd like to invite you to inspect the guard. Thank you very much, sir.
And speaking of the Trump factor, we know that Prime Minister Turnbull said protectionism offers no genuine protection. History cannot be turned back, just as the trend of the times cannot be reversed. And this comes at a time when the US is looking more inward. What sort of opportunities do you think that opens up then for Australia and China?
Well, it's really about trade for Australia and them feeling out how they want to react to this. I mean, it's such a big part of Australia's future, not only just the resources, but they're trying to climb the economic things, the economic relationship by having more advanced services as part of their exports. And this is going to be the real story here, and it's this issue about where they'll go. Will Australia and New Zealand become part of the Silk Road, the Belt and Road Initiative that China has put out? That's one of the issues that will be discussed today, at least preliminarily. So there's a lot of change going on in the world, and it's not just economic. It's really about positioning. Where does Australia and eventually New Zealand fit in a world where their main trade partners are in the East and the West is declining?
And speaking of that positioning, how do you think in terms of the US trying to balance its relationship with Australia and then Australia trying to balance its relationship with China, how do you see that dynamic playing out?
Well, it's really not clear on the US side what will or will not happen. Australia should be safe because they run a fairly large deficit in compared to the amount of trade that they're doing with the US. So it's not likely that Donald Trump will come in and try to change the basis of their current bilateral trade agreement. But as it pertains to China, there's a tug of war that's going on.
We have the Prime Minister there introducing members of the government to Premier Li Keqiang as they go down the line on this very historic visit, with Chinese Premier Li Keqiang being the first Chinese premier to have an official visit in the country in more than a decade. We know that Premier Li is also bringing a large business delegation with him, and China is Australia's largest trading partner. The two of them. Here we are meeting the Chinese delegation as they're being introduced down the line also. China and Australia have enjoyed warm diplomatic relations since they were established back in 1941.
You know, Rochelle, we're seeing these business delegations, and your guest in Beijing was commenting on bilateral trade now more than $100 billion. The other interesting number is that two-way investment has also exceeded $100 billion. So you've got these Australian exports now going to China, and you've got a lot of Chinese investment coming into Australia, and that's a really positive thing for the Australian economy.
And as Ina was mentioning, that China and Australia signed a free trade agreement known as CHAFTA in December of 2015. And actually at the time, Trade and Investment Minister Andrew Robb said this historic agreement with our biggest... I'm sorry, we're going to just pause here quickly for the Chinese national anthem. Bear with us.
Shoulder, arms, guard, order, arms.
That was the Chinese national anthem there that you were just listening to on Premier Li Keqiang's visit to Canberra, Australia. We also heard the Australian national anthem there, very historic day for the two countries.